In recent days, one name has once again become the focus of debate in the United States: Kilmar Abrego Garcia. This name is not just an immigration file or an ordinary deportation case. It is right at the center of a complex diplomatic chess game stretching from Washington to Tennessee and then to Uganda. In today's video, we will look not only at one man, but also at the behind-the-scenes of U.S. immigration policies, diplomatic maneuvers, and international agreements. So how does a person end up being sent first to El Salvador, then to Uganda? And what secret agreements and political calculations might lie behind this process? On Friday, Abrego Garcia was released from a prison in Tennessee, but he did not come to prominence through an ordinary chain of charges. His file is like a laboratory where years of immigration struggles, federal investigations, and political pressures are blended together. From a person who was granted protection status from gangs in 2019 to a figure who in 2025 has turned into an element of international bargaining. This transformation, how exactly it happened, what the recent agreement signed between the U.S. and Uganda means, and why the Trump administration has brought this issue to the national agenda, these are the questions we will discuss today. Now, let me ask you this. Why would a country want to send a person to a third country that is not his own? Is this just a deportation procedure, or is it part of a larger migration engineering strategy? Stay with us until the end of this video to find out the answers, because the information I will share with you shortly, especially the details leaked from IC documents, will reveal just how layered this case really is. Don't forget to like and subscribe to support this type of up-to-date, in-depth analysis, because we are here to deliver every new development to you as clearly and as quickly as possible. The process that began after the release decision in Tennessee was in fact only the tip of the iceberg. Abrego Garcia, after being removed from federal supervision and suddenly directed to pretrial services in Maryland, found himself in the middle of a much bigger diplomatic chess game behind the scenes. In the notice ICE sent to lawyers, the phrase, "may be sent to Uganda within at least 72 hours, looked less like an ordinary immigration procedure and more like a signal of a pre-planned transfer. Here the critical question is this: where does Uganda fit into all of this? Last month, a new agreement entered into force between Uganda and the U.S., under which Uganda accepted the deportation of third-party individuals. While this agreement is presented on the surface as being for humanitarian reasons, many immigration experts argue that actually create a legal basis for a strategy of using legal loopholes to direct unwanted persons not to their own countries, but to a third country. This is a controversial area in international law, because when a person is sent not to his own country but to another, his legal status there becomes uncertain and often creates a kind of diplomatic exile zone. Returning to Abrego Garcia's file, a traffic stop in 2022 became the spark that reopened his earlier immigration process, being placed under federal supervision, then sent to El Salvador, and then brought back again to the U.S. Every link in this chain bears the stamp of a different administration at a different time. Especially the Trump administration's approach to this case turned it into a kind of test case, because during Trump's time, the zero-tolerance policy on immigration targeted not only border crossings, but also those who had previously been granted protection status. That's why Abrego Garcia's story looks less like an individual legal struggle and more like a reflection of an administrative shift, a political understanding, and an international accord. So why did Uganda accept? According to some sources, agreements like these between the U.S. and other countries are often linked to development aid, economic packages, or political support. In other words, while it appears to be humanitarian cooperation, behind the scenes is actually a highly strategic diplomatic exchange. Now, here's another critical piece of information for you. According to notes in IC documents, the plan to send Abrego Garcia to Uganda is not only about enforcing immigration law, but is also seen as part of certain security agency strategy to neutralize international gang connections. So the issue is not only about one person's legal status, but also about how intelligence agencies manage international gang networks. Today, we discuss how the case of Kilmar Abrego Garcia is not just a deportation incident, but part of a much deeper and more layered diplomatic game, from his release in Tennessee, to the plan to send him to Uganda, from ICE's 72-hour notification to lawyers, to the behind-the-scenes of the U.S. Uganda agreement. Every detail actually shows us the bigger picture. Immigration is no longer just a matter of law, but has become a bargaining chip in international relations. This case also reminds us of this. Every deportation file carries a human story of its own, but some, like Abrego Garcia's, turn into symbolic cases that summarize the politics of an era, the priorities of an administration, and a country's diplomatic chess moves. When we think about why the Trump administration took such an aggressive stance on this issue and why Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem made such harsh statements, we see that the matter is not just about sending one person away. It is also about the message delivered to the public, the image of determination presented to the political base, and how immigration policies are shaped ahead of the upcoming elections. So what will happen next? Will Abrego Garcia really be sent to Uganda? Or will a new wave of legal objections begin within the 72-hour notice period granted by the judge in Maryland? The answer to these questions is not yet clear. But what we do know is that this case may go down in history not only as determining the fate of one individual, but also as a test case for which immigration strategies the U.S. will implement in the new era. What do you think about this? Are these kinds of agreements with third countries fair, or are they simply a way of exploiting the gray areas of international law? Share your thoughts in the comments. Because these issues are more than just news, they are social and ethical debates. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel so we can continue providing these deep analyses. In our next video, we will reveal what economic interests play a role behind these agreements and how countries like Uganda benefit from this process. Because sometimes a deportation story can actually be part of million-dollar development funds, political bargains, and migration engineering. See you in the next video.